What if I told you AMD's been working on a new feature designed to improve single-thread performance, multi-thread performance, bring undervolting back to the Ryzen 5000 series. It'll help you potentially reach a higher boost clock and potentially reduce your temperatures as well. Well, that's Precision Boost Overdrive 2. And if you're interested in tweaking, tuning, overclocking, I think you're really going to love what's new in the 2.0 version of Precision Boost Overdrive. Now, this video will be a little longer than the ones we usually do for this format, but I think the information's worth it. So sit down, sit tight, and let's get into overclocking. Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce to you Precision Boost Overdrive 2. It is an improvement on the feature you already know and love. Spoiler alert, it will bring higher single thread performance, higher multi-thread performance, and a new way to undervolt on Ryzen. So before we jump into that, I want to start with the basics of how AMD's boost technology works. All processors have some sort of boost. Ours is called Precision Boost, and it works kind of like this. If you imagine a virtual triangle in your head with amperage from the motherboard on one corner, that is what the VRMs on your motherboard provide, and then socket power measured in watts, or the amount of energy that the processor pulls from the processor socket on your motherboard, and then finally maximum temperature. And whatever workload you run is going to run somewhere inside this imaginary triangle. Maybe it kind of comes up towards the temperature corner or comes up to the current corner. When that happens, the processor boost frequency levels off and sort of sits at that point until something in the operating environment changes. Maybe you change workloads, so there's not as much amperage requirement or wattage requirement anymore. And then boost can go up or it can be modified. Point is that this idea is running on a millisecond to millisecond basis in Ryzen. It's always analyzing these variables and saying, should I give more boost or less boost? And that's how our processor works. Now, when you get to Precision Boost Overdrive, that is an AMD feature to overclock the basic boost functionality inside our CPUs. Now, all the firmware is left on. All of these limiters are still in place, but the limits get bigger. You tell the processor you can pull more amperage and more wattage from the motherboard. So as an example, if you were to extend that triangle, the stock operation of the CPU or the default operation of the CPU now moves towards more amperage and more wattage. And not on the diagram, but more voltage as well. That's required to consume more of these. That's what Precision Boost Overdrive does. It takes the stock behavior of our boost technology and makes it more aggressive in these two dimensions. Chiefly, that helps multi-thread performance, something like Cinebench or Blender. Many of these 3D content creation applications use heavy multi-thread workloads, which can get faster with more current and more power from the socket. But the holy grail for many users is single thread performance, because that especially impacts PC gaming. Having faster single core responsiveness can raise frame rates. So what we've done in Precision Boost Overdrive 2 is come up with a new feature in addition to higher amperage and higher wattage that lets single core workloads go faster. And that is called Curve Optimizer. That is a core feature of Precision Boost Overdrive 2. And to understand it, I'm going to put another diagram on the magical floating drawing in space. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's a secret forever. So what we're going to do with this chart is we're going to say that there's frequency along this axis and voltage along this axis. And the graph looks something like that. And what this diagram expresses is the relationship between frequency going up and voltage going up. This is just a hypothetical diagram, but it helps you understand that it requires more voltage to get a higher frequency. And you'll also notice that there comes a point where additional frequency can't be supported no matter how much voltage you give it. And every processor works like this. So when you undervolt a CPU, which is a core aspect of this Curve Optimizer feature, you are optimizing this relationship by either increasing voltage or reducing voltage. So let's start with a classic example of a user going into their processor and undervolting the CPU. What you're saying here is that I want to take the same curve, but I want to use less voltage across the entire range. So you've kind of shifted the curve to the right. You get a little bit of extra frequency. Because you're using less voltage in the CPU, temperatures are a little cooler. But notice the biggest impact is up here. You took the most voltage out up here. And that reflects high load, a processor running at sort of full bore, heavy workload, and the rest of this curve doesn't get a lot of love because you've optimized the entire stability of the system, the undervolt of the system around that point, that worst case scenario. So what if you had a technology that could optimize not just up here, but down here as well, where there's more opportunity to take out more voltage because the load is less. And that is what Curve Optimizer does. It is an adaptive undervolting technology that allows the processor to automatically take out less voltage when the load is high and more voltage when the load is low. And that's what can help both single thread performance and multi-thread performance at the same time. And that's why Curve Optimizer is such an important feature of Precision Boost Overdrive 2. So how does it work? Well, historically, a user might go into their BIOS and say, I want to take out 25 millivolts. So just as an example, if your processor was running at 1.0 volts, it would now be running at 0.975 volts. You've taken out 25. Doesn't work like that anymore with Curve Optimizer. It's going to use a new system called counts. And we're going to say one count equals 3 to 5 millivolts. Okay? So you can support anywhere between 1 and 30 counts with this new Curve Optimizer feature. So what is a Curve Optimizer count? How does this work? Well, if we acknowledge that when the processor is at high load here, there's less voltage to be removed, and when it's at low load, there's more voltage to be removed, well, this guy goes here, and this guy goes here. The processor will automatically take out more voltage when there's more opportunity to do so, and less voltage when there's less opportunity to do so. And you as the user controlling the count give the processor a hint as to the range that you're looking for, and it will make the rest of the decisions on its own. So now you can dial in an undervolt on your Ryzen processor that benefits this entire curve, and what you're really doing is you are specializing this curve for you and your individual processor. You are no longer running a one-size-fits-all curve for your model of processor. And the benefit is pretty clear. You can get more single-thread performance and more multi-thread performance. And the benefits are pretty cool. I think you're really going to like what you see. Can't wait for you to try it yourself. This will debut, this Curve Optimizer feature and Precision Boost 2.0 will debut in BIOSes featuring AMD Agiza 1180. Now, some BIOSes may already have this. You may have seen some articles on it, but those BIOSes based on AMD Agiza 1180 start appearing in December of 2020. And at that time, you will have access to all the traditional Precision Boost Overdrive features, plus this new Curve Optimizer and undervolting capability. And this is how undervolting will work on Ryzen now on. You don't have to use Precision Boost Overdrive. You can just use Curve Optimizer, but it's now part of a larger suite of features that can really customize the performance of your CPU. And best of all, it's fully automatic. The firmware is still on. You don't have to tinker. It knows when it's too much or too little and will adjust for you accordingly. It's probably the smartest way to overclock, and you can get better performance out of it, potentially higher frequencies, lower temperatures. There's lots of benefits for using this functionality. Can't wait for you to try it. I'm really excited. Hope you enjoy.